Hello and welcome into a new episode of Nos Confunden, Terra Infinita, a new video by, in case you don't know, that is one of the biggest points of topic of this map and in general one of the most interesting things that is displayed here. And I purposely avoided it till now because I wanted to know each and every last bit of information that was available about the topic we're going to be talking about, and also because simply I just wanted to check out the rest of the map, things that were less known to people usually. But of course, the time has come, we've explored so much of this map, I'm probably going to assume that's at least more than half of the map, so it's finally time to go back south, since we have explored mainly in a circular direction and then into a northern direction, as last episode we did everything from the Celestial Lands up to the three Dioscuri, Castor, Pollux and Alheida, and today it's finally time. It is finally time to talk about Nibiru. Oh well, yes, indeed it is time. It's been a while since I wanted to talk about it, and it is, I believe, finally time to actually talk about it, basically, and to actually explore this. So before we get right into what Nibiru is, since there's a lot to talk about right here, let's just see what this map looks on the map. Okay, so of course this map is highly symbolical, so you can't take everything literally, and there are some things that just can't be explained in the matter sense, but there are some things we can immediately notice. So first of all, it is literally on the edge of the known universe. So as you can see here is the unknown zone, then we have the Great Dome, that has everything that is known inside of it. As you can see, it extends all the way up here, and just surrounds everything basically. And then the southernmost thing in this entire map is of course Nibiru. One other thing we can notice about Nibiru is that differently to most planes of existence, it is divided in three walls. So you know how most of these planes of existence have ice walls, or walls that divide their own rings basically. As we saw with Earth, there's a central part of Earth, which is the known lands of Earth, the one we mostly talk about, the one inhabited simply and solely by humans. Then we have the second part, which is called the first ring. Then we have the mountain rings, and then we have the second ring, which outside of it stops being Earth. We've seen a lot of the places known on Earth, and of course we can see that many planes of existence in this map have the same kind of structure. Of course there are some that don't have this, like the lands of Venus, and there are some that have it in even more circles, like the lands of Hydra, but the important thing that is the structure that we're shown. And in the case of Nibiru, one thing that is noticeable is that it is not surrounded by a simple type of division, a simple type of wall between itself and the outside, but it is apparently shown to be surrounded by three different types. One is this blackish kind of matter, one is this brownish kind of matter, and then we have the white one. So what can we talk about then? The white one is literally linked with the Great Dome. This means this is completely not traversable. There is no way to get into Nibiru by going in this part. Then the black one. We talked about this in the earlier episodes, I believe episodes 2 and 3, maybe 3 and 4 of this series, and we talked about how the black kind of matter that divides the lands and the firmaments shown in the map is something you can't traverse through conventional means. You'd either have to be dead, so your soul could traverse it, you could do it through astral projection, but there is no way to do it with solid matter. So as you can see, one is completely blocked off, and the second is not traversable by conventional means. So that means that the only way to access Nibiru is through this one type, a brownish color, something that is definitely meant to represent something solid, a type of ground, a type of mineral. So the only place we can go to Nibiru from is the lands of Jupiter. Fortunately, we already talked about the lands of Jupiter, as seen by the kind of red outline, in a previous episode. I do not recall especially what episode, but you can just check one of them and see if they're talked about. So we can see that the only way to get to Nibiru are the lands of Jupiter. So you'd have to create some excavation mechanism that goes all the way from the lands of Jupiter, excavates in this kind of a matter, and then comes out in the lands of Nibiru. So, that's what to be said about the outer layer, the thing that divides Nibiru from the rest of the map. We will be talking more about the shape and the looks of Nibiru itself, so the appearance of Nibiru on this map later, because now it's time to get into the big stuff. Let's talk about Nibiru itself, what it means, what is Marduk, what is Planet X, all these things. This episode is solely concentrated on these topics. We might even explore some of these places, but this is the big guy. This is the big guns, alright? We have to talk about Nibiru. And that is what I'll do right now. So, what is Nibiru? Let's go far into the past, when time itself was more of a concept than something we could mathematically calculate. In ancient Sumer, the place in the south of Mesopotamia, over 5,000 years ago, there lived an advanced civilization that practiced astronomy at high levels, especially compared to their surrounding counterparts. This civilization, called in fact the Sumerian civilization, worshipped a pantheon of ancient gods that were thoroughly linked with the cosmic entities, such as the stars and what the Sumerians identified as the planets. Between all of these planets, one that was identified multiple times was in fact Nibiru. So as you can see, the setting of Nibiru is very ancient. This is a common theme when it comes to this map. A lot of these planes of existence have direct links to the ancient people of Earth, and to the people and to the gods they worshipped. So we can see that in the lands of Neptune. There's almost innumerable cases we saw about it. Even when it comes to the Sumerians themselves, we already saw something about them, and we will get to it once we continue with the story. So, Nibiru is a mysterious entity, and its origins and meanings have differed depending on the ancient text and the people that studied it. Therefore, there are different and various currents of ways to experience and explain Nibiru. So I will be listing 3 of these explanations and what they talk about. First of all, according to the historian Emanuel Friedman. In his account, Nibiru was the name assigned to any astronomical entity linked with the equinox, which means the day that winter ends and spring starts, or when summer ends and autumn starts. These were both significant dates in the Sumerian society, since it was founded upon the innovation of agriculture. I mean innovation because, of course, 5,000 years ago, though agriculture wasn't just invented yesterday, it was still something niche, something new, something that the majority of humanity was not accustomed to. So, when placed into this mentality, it means that it makes sense for people to account the equinox as something very important, and it would make sense for many of the texts that represent Nibiru to make it just be an equinox. Then, according to the Babylonians. The Babylonians were a successor civilization of the Sumerians that lived in the 2nd and 1st millennia BC. For them, Nibiru would be just another name for the plane of existence Jupiter, which, of course, as we can see on this map, we already talk about. Jupiter is right here, right in the north of Nibiru. So it makes sense for them to be confused with each other. Even when it comes to the solar system, when you think about it, Jupiter is very big, it's huge basically, so you can't just miss it. So, according to the Babylonians, Nibiru was Jupiter. But the Babylonians also identified Nibiru with the North Star, which was an extremely important landmark for travel and navigation during the night. Of course, and a civilization as ancient as the Sumerians would use the North Star as one of the major landmarks for any type of travel during the nighttime, because they did not have any other kinds of ways to transport themselves. When we think about the 3 Magi and biblical history during Jesus' birth, they themselves used the stars, in this case the star that went up to Jesus, to move themselves into the lands of the Middle East. So in ancient times this was extremely common. So as we can see, for the Babylonians, Nibiru was either Jupiter, the plane of existence, so the planet, or it was the North Star. Then, finally, there's a third theory, according to the writer Zecharia Sitchin. According to him, Nibiru is the homeland of the Anunnaki, the celestial divine beings of Sumerian mythology, that came to Earth to intermingle with the cavemen in order to give life to the modern Homo sapiens. Who are the Anunnaki, you might ask? Well, the Anunnaki are something we already talked about actually. As you can see here, this is what I was hinting about earlier, we have already a plane of existence called the Anunnaki lands. Previously in this series, I was under the impression that the Anunnaki lands were the homeland of the Anunnaki, which meant that the Sumerian part of the universe was concentrated in this area. I was more convinced about this even because of the fact that we had the lands of Enkidu and the lands or Tierras de Gilgamesh right next to them, which were other character in ancient Mesopotamian mythology. So to me, it just made sense. But wrong I was truly. Because in fact, the Anunnaki lands seem to be somewhat more of a colony, an experiment, something the Anunnaki themselves used as a launching board to encounter with humanity during their visit to Earth, and not their homeland, which seems to be way farther, even to the south of the lands of the custodians, on the borders of the known universe, in Nibiru itself. Sitchin, this writer, bases his theory on the many accounts of contact between gods and humans in Sumerian texts, either in mythological tales or in just everyday experiences. He also sees the gods of Sumer as none other than extraterrestrial aliens, their peculiar bestial forms as proof of their own alien status. So when he sees these creatures, these extraterrestrial Anunnaki, he doesn't think about gods or divine beings, he thinks about aliens. Now, I'm nobody to disprove anything, but as we can see in this map, it could be just both things. According to this map, the aliens and the divine beings can coexist and inhabit different planes of existence, as we can see in this map. We had places that were completely linked to divine beings, like Brahma, lands of Neptune, lands of Uranus, and we had places that were completely linked to basically what we could call aliens, like the lands of Draco, the lands of Orion, and even parts of the lands of Mars. But that is definitely not it when it comes to Nibiru. There's much more to talk about. In fact, there's also another proposal regarding Nibiru, called the Nibiru Cataclysm. This is the theory that states that Nibiru was coming back to Earth, this time not as the Anunnaki, but as the plane of existence itself, moving through space and following the trajectory that in time would make it collide with Earth, causing the extinction of all life and the end of both celestial bodies. So what does this mean really? Well, it's pretty clear. For some, Nibiru was just bound to exist as something that would destroy Earth. This theory is quite recent. There's no ancient accounts for it, but there are a lot of doomsday texts that kind of approve it. So according to this theory, the plane of existence of Nibiru would be following some kind of trajectory of this kind, going right onto Earth. And of course, with the collision, both would destroy each other. This doesn't really seem something that the Anunnaki would do. It just sounds counterproductive to both of them, but who am I to say? Of course, such theory was picked up by various end-of-the-world groups and cults during the 2000s, and multiple exponents of such groups foresaw that Nibiru was coming soon towards Earth, and that this would ensure doomsday. This could mean either that Nibiru itself, the plane of existence, was going towards Earth, or that simply the beings that came from Nibiru, so the Anunnaki, were coming to Earth. Sitchin, the writer we talked about earlier, said that himself he believed that Nibiru was coming back. He denied any kind of Nibiru trajectory that collided through Earth, but he did think that the Anunnaki would come back to Earth in around 2900 AD, so like in 900 years or something, maybe a bit less. According to this map, this is probably what we're looking at, which makes sense according to Anunnaki lands. This entire base, this something that I thought was the homeland, really was just a base, a colonial experiment that would explain the Anunnaki's presence so close to Earth, despite their presence on the plane of existence itself being kind of short when it comes to history, according to the Sumerians. Although this entire thing about the collision and the trajectory might sound like something crazy that would never happen, something that we just wouldn't know about, and just simply complete rubbish, there is a historical layer of possibility to this thanks to the precedent of Theia. Theia was a large planet that, according to many astronomers, collided with Earth in the Big Flock, uniting part of Earth with Theia, and this is proved by the existence of the Moon, which was the other half of Theia, now forced into the Earth's orbit forever. So Theia itself would be in this case a substitute for Nibiru, an ancient, very ancient, billions of years ago, ancient, that would collide with the Earth and create the Moon. An interesting thing I found about this map is that there is no moon. Like, am I just weirded out about it? No source, no moon, nothing? I don't know, I just expected it to be somewhere. Maybe I'm wrong. Just feels like something that should be portrayed even when talking about a flat map projection. Anyway, back to the Nibiru Cataclysm. Others have linked the possible Nibiru Cataclysm to a more mythological explanation. In fact, they believe that once the Anunnaki saw how bad humanity was faring on Earth, they decided to end it by using their own plane of existence as a doomsday device to punish humanity, basically blowing up each other during this collision, but not by a random source or random encounter, but as literal punishment, kind of like a double killing. It just sounds weird. Of course, this theory has found little to no support in most communities because it just wouldn't make sense, both because, you know, the Anunnaki, if they exist, and if they existed, why would they destroy their entire creation, and why would they do it in this form, destroying their own plane of existence? And also because, you know, they have a base here, so it just doesn't make sense. Would make sense more to launch themselves through this here. According to this map, of course. We're talking about in the context of the Terra Infinita map. Now, when we talk about Nibiru and Marduk, we also have to talk about the actual map and how it makes it seem, because all this stuff about Nibiru is what we know outside of Terra Infinita, or at least what we can see both within it and outside it. But when you see the map and what it shows something interesting that is not shown in any other map. So first of all, we have a single continent which is named here, a single landmass which is named, and it is in the exact center of Nibiru, and it is called Marduk. Now, what is Marduk, you may ask? Well, Marduk is the main god of the Sumerians, or the Sumer people. And the Sumerians have this god called Marduk. He is the main god. He was both the patron god of the city of Ur, which was an ancient city in Sumer, and also the main god of Babylon, so the successor civilization to the Sumerians. Marduk was identified with vegetation, magic, water, so all these kind of very basic things. There was a lot of magic related stuff when it came to Marduk that made it be one of the main gods of transformation. He was heavily featured in like myths and stories that the Sumerians would talk about each other. So when in this map to be shown in the middle of the plane of existence of Nibiru, it just makes complete sense, honestly. It would make it seem as Nibiru is in fact focus on the main deity of the Sumerians, which would confirm the theory that in this case Nibiru is shown as the homeland of the Anunnaki, and of course Marduk being the head of the Anunnaki, the equivalent of the president, and in this case the owner or like main inhabitant of their main continent. Or there's another theory that makes it seem that Marduk is not the name of the main god, but it was the name of the main land where the Anunnaki originated from. So Marduk would not be a single person or single divine entity, but it would be the name, just like how we call Americans Americans from the continent of America or the country of America. Same thing would be Marduk. So Marduk would not be just some one person or one deity, he would be a collection of people called Marduk, which would be the people of Marduk, so the people of this continent. And as we can see from the map, this continent just doesn't look great to live in. It might have been destroyed by the Anunnaki themselves when some kind of event happens. As you can see, it's literally covered in red. It's covered in volcanic explosions. There's literally fractures upon the land. It does not seem anywhere near safe to inhabit. Of course, we do not know how the Anunnaki live, and we do not know how they even fare considering their non-human appearances, or like bestial kind of mix between human appearances. And we know that the plane of existence of Nibiru does not have like water, as in H2O, I think that is the main word. It's different. Also, Marduk itself is separated from all the other landmasses in the second ring of Nibiru, and the second ring of Nibiru has way more landmasses. Once again, applying to the theory that the Anunnaki are, instead of a simple pantheon, they are literally a mixture of different peoples and like aliens, basically extraterrestrial, that come from the plane of existence of Nibiru, according once again to the map of Nos Confunden. And as you can see here, we have the star, the solar entity that literally shines upon Marduk, and we have a second one for everything else in the plane of existence. And similar to Earth, it is once again to the in the Nos Confunden map, it is divided by an ice wall. An ice wall that is very similar but also very easy to traverse. As you can see, there's at least 2, if not 3 ways to just traverse it by, I suppose, some kind of navigation device, at least these 2. So it is pretty easy to just reach the edge of the known world and escape from the center where Marduk is and go to the other lands in Nibiru. So in that case, everyone in Nibiru can be contacted. But then again, there's one last thing which makes Nibiru one of the most interesting planes of existence we have seen in this map, and that is this red huge circle that divides Nibiru from its last ring. I honestly don't know what that is. Okay, so first I thought it was going to be something like random. I just didn't think much of it, honestly. I thought it was some kind of wall. I think now that it is some creation, some device, some literal shield, force field, force shield, something like that the Anunnaki created to defend themselves from attackers. In this case, these custodians, which we saw are some intermingling species that just ruins other places and other aliens around the world, around the universe. So it would make sense for them to just use something like this to divide themselves, because we can see it's very hard to even get to Nibiru. So if they thought they needed something protecting, they would need it inside of their plane of existence, not outside of it as we saw earlier. We would need it inside, but not enough inside to ruin the land masses that they inhabit. So as you can see here, this matches all points. It means that the people of Nibiru, the Anunnaki, literally created a massive, most insane huge shield, protective defense that shields them from the rest of the universe. I mean, that is at least how I interpret it, because there is literally no explanation to this. It's insane when you think about it. Just imagine the size. Nibiru itself is 2, if not 3, probably even 3 times the size of Earth on this map. It's only comparable to the lands of the Custodians, and even there it is bigger than the lands of the Custodians. It is just huge, it is gigantic, and there's so much to be said about it. It's crazy, it really is crazy. Once again, the Anunnaki, why would they even use a land base? Would it be just to create meddling with the humanity? It's interesting when you think about it. Like, if you conceptualize these Sumerians as being right, and Sitchin also as being right, so the Anunnaki are real, because this map doesn't say, yo, the Anunnaki live here. They don't even like have continents per se, like Anunnaki Group 1, Anunnaki Group 2, Anunnaki Group 3. They just have Nibiru, and then somewhere else in the universe they have the Anunnaki lands. So you have to like literally trace the dots together to get a coherent story. A coherent something, you know? A coherent scientific something. Just anything. And this is what makes the Nos Confunden map so great. You have to do a lot of research, or in your case you just have to listen to me talking about it, and it just comes out very nicely. There's so much stuff, basically, to learn about it. So much mythological references, so much interesting things. Like even the Second Earth, the Lands of Clones, were so many like deep dives into many topics. Very, very well spent time. So now let's get back to Nibiru. I think we talked about it enough. We saw anything that could have been related to it. Once again, who to believe? Is Nibiru really a plane of existence that is going to collide with Earth? I honestly doubt it. I don't really believe the cataclysm thing. That's my personal belief, at least. There is a precedent of Theia, so it could happen in the future. But I don't know, it just seems a bit too far-fetched. Then you have to choose whether to believe in the Anunnaki itself, themselves, or just not. So it's complicated, but you'll get through it, and you know, it's up to you anyways. This is not my map even, so it's literally Nos Confunden. Once again, shout out to him, go to his channel, watch his videos. They are in Spanish, unfortunately, so you'll have to use subtitles, but he does use subtitles in English, so it's pretty good. Okay, so now I think we've finished when it comes to Nibiru. I think it's time to get to a new topic. A new topic that is literally linked with Nibiru, but it's not Nibiru itself. This little, well, it's not really little, but it is compared to Nibiru. So scaling down a lot now. Talk about Planet X. Planet X. X has been a letter that has been used a lot recently, if you follow with that, to hear that whole Twitter drama thing. Apparently it's X now, not Twitter. Whatever. So, what is X? What is Planet X? Well, it's basically a name given both to a possible form of Nibiru's satellite, so the equivalent of Nibiru's moon, and also to a hypothetical additional planet further away from Pluto that is still part of the main solar system, so the big 8, I believe, because Pluto was like downgraded to a not planet, but whatever, that's for astronomical things, I don't care. But yeah, some people believe that there is one more plane of existence in the like solar system, and that plane of existence is just called Planet X. Me being myself that like kind of know Roman stuff, I thought Planet X meant like 10th because of Pluto being considered maybe 9th, but no, Planet X literally means X as unknown, so planet unknown. And this one planet can be identified with many like planes of existences, and some of them we even talked about earlier, like Eris. Eris is very far away in the map of Nos Confunden, very far away, but we did talk about them a long while ago, I believe 2 videos ago. Here are the lands of Eris. So like in this case, Planet X, some people thought Eris to be Planet X because Eris in size and diameter was bigger, I believe, than Pluto. So some people said, okay, so Pluto is not a planet anymore, but Eris, which was further away from the sun, further away from the center of the universe in this map, they thought, okay, so then Eris is Planet X. But on this map, that's not even the case, because there's one different Eris, which is the one we just saw, and then we have Planet X. So you just kind of have to decide what it is. There's also a completely different thing when it comes to Planet X. There's like a completely different kind of batch of information when you search up Planet X. And of course there's a lot of sci-fi stuff but I want to focus on something else, which is astrology. For those that don't know, astrology is that one thing with the signs and the are you a Cancer, are you Capricorn, something like, you know, pieces, that kind of thing, you know. Astrology, the one everybody that anyone has heard about, basically. I don't personally like astrology. I think it's a bit nonsense. That's just my opinion, though. In my culture, it's very prevalent, so you kind of just get used to it. But I don't know if you guys watching me just know as much as about astrology as I do. And what I know about astrology by looking into it is that apparently there's a bit of people in the field of astrology that believe in Planet X, and they call it X Proserpina. Proserpina, by the way, is also a Roman name for the goddess of fertility, which is Persephone in Greek, ancient Greek mythology. And this X Proserpina planet, so the one we're looking at right now, I believe this is the interpretation that is shown in the Nos Confunden map. This is a plane of existence which is believed to coincide with Planet X as the 10th planet of the solar system. So in this case, Planet X means actually 10th. But that's not it. Due to astrology's many symbolical and natural beliefs, X Proserpina was considered to be a strictly feminine planet. Now I'll leave you to decide what that means. I don't care too about it, but it's definitely something, because astrology has all these kind of hidden meanings that relate to human activity on Earth depending on the star and celestial bodies. So apparently this plane of existence, X Proserpina, so in this case Planet X, is specifically feminine, and when it comes to the actual surface of the planet, it is in fact inhabited, and it is inhabited by a species of only women beings, which could be connected and contacted with through astral projection. So you can see just how astrology just connects the dots with all this kind of stuff. So Planet X being literally a livable planet, and it's next to the Anunnaki. It's interesting because you can see on this map, it's probably the case, the kind of landmass that looks between the Anunnaki and Planet X has complete differences. As you can see, the one in Planet X is green, so it's same thing as Earth, while on the Anunnaki planet of Nibiru, it's it looks like dead space basically. But it's definitely not the case for Planet X. It even has its own star and its own firmament, its own ice ring, and then just nothing. That's it. It has continents, so maybe a small planet in existence, X Proserpina, could be. Also, there's one more trivia, I guess, a fun fact, you could say, about X Proserpina in astrology, in the astrological belief, and that is that the shape of the plane of existence is, or at least the shape of the landmasses of the plane of existence are supposed to be reminding a uterus and a woman's hair. Yes, that is right. That is apparently what the landmasses of Planet X, also called X Proserpina, are supposed to be reminding you of. Now, I personally don't see it. You might. Good for you. Maybe something, I'm missing something maybe, alright? I don't know, it's just weird. Planet X is just very weird. There's also a lot of other astronomical, not astrological, astronomical beliefs in Planet X that says, well, maybe it's very just far away from the sun when you talk about it in the astronomical field, but it's just not proved by anything, and on this map it just seems to be X Proserpina, not anything else. I just find it very funny how it literally goes from Nibiru, the conqueror of worlds, the one that defines himself from everything with this entire circle of red, whatever, definitely a shield. Then they colonize the Anunnaki, then they intermingle with humanity, and then they just have this random little, very small plane of existence called Planet X, and they don't colonize it, and they don't even have a presence in it. Just sounds weird. I don't know what the maker of the map was thinking, what Nos Confunden was thinking when making this, but it's pretty funny when you think about it. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, now that that is done, we can actually go to the last part of the video, because we just spent the great majority of this video talking about Nibiru and Planet X, as was deserved. Of course, once again, Nibiru was one of the biggest subjects in this entire map. it deserved a single video on itself. Same kind of thing with the second Earth, but we did cover a bunch of other stuff when we covered the second Earth. So I just believe that we did a great service when it comes to covering Nibiru. So let's finish up the video with something that is called the trifecta of the Aquila. So what is the trifecta of the Aquila? It's literally these 4 planes of existence. So trifecta is a Latin word which means 3, or means like 3 angles. And of course this means there's 3 little ones and then 1 big one. You can see that pretty quickly here. We have Corvus, Ara, Scutum as the little ones, and then the center of the trifecta is Aquila. So these are something I didn't find much about when it comes to my research. We can see about them, like looking at the shapes of the plane of existences, the kind of division they have seems to be just something you can traverse through air, I believe, different from what we saw with Nibiru. So probably some kind of plane, I don't know, maybe you could get to them through that. Then there's also the subject of their seas, which I believe should be helium seas, so once again not made of water. I could be wrong, no, I'm pretty sure that's right. And the other interesting things, it's that they all have different colors when it comes to their land masses. Aquila is the only like normal one, the one that is probably just inhabited by sentient beings and is livable for humans as well. Green, you know, just, you know, there's vegetation here, you know, there's some kind of movements. Then we have these 3. Ara is yellow. I do not know what yellow means, honestly. I couldn't find anything on Ara, but I did find that it means altar in Latin. So something maybe related to the next episodes, maybe when it comes to the lands of Hercules, might be, might not be. Considering this is the trifecta, it should be more related to Aquila, but I couldn't find much about it. Then we have Scutum, which means shield in Latin, and it's the smallest one, and it's also the one that looks the most like the Nibiru landmasses, the outer ones outside of Marduk. Same kind of Dead Space kind of vibe there you get. A lot of small islands and one main continent. They do not even have rings. Oh, that's also a thing I noticed with these. They don't have rings. They just have their own like their own divider between the rest of the universe, but there's no rings. It's interesting. It's definitely minor. You know, there's not much about these when it's just that less detailed compared to the places we just saw. We even have Corvus. This one just doesn't have anything about it making it special. Means crow in Latin. So the one thing that I did notice about these 4 places is the fact that they're all based off Latin names. Aquila meaning eagle, Ara meaning altar, Scutum meaning shield, and Corvus meaning crow. And apart from that, and apart from the fact that they're all different, I simply don't know. I assume Aquila is one of those planes of existence that is just blocked from the rest of the universe. So it means there is no way to traverse outside of it, except from these places we saw right here. And therefore it means their civilization just remains there, where they are. It also appears there's no nucleus near it, so there might be no way to create wormholes, as seen in like past episodes. So maybe they're just stuck here, but they're faring well since their planet is definitely livable. While in the case of Ara, Scutum, and Corvus, have no idea, honestly. Just seems weird. I don't know much about it. I'm not gonna risk myself. So I think we can finish off this episode right here. I don't want to dwell larger amounts of times into it, since I think we talked about all the important parts of this video. We talked about Nibiru, we just made a bit of an intro to the trifecta here, and we talked about Planet X. This is what I wanted to cover inside of this video, because these are the main topics, of course, Nibiru being the big one. I hope you guys enjoyed how much we talked about Nibiru, and I hope you guys have a lot to say when it comes to Nibiru, because there's a lot of information surrounding it, a lot of books made about it, a lot of like videos, and of course even documentaries made about Nibiru and the Anunnaki. And of course, once again, we already did mention the Anunnaki, but not in depth up this video. So let me know your theories and your explanation to this entire deal with Nibiru. This entire deal with the Cataclysm, is it possible? Could it happen? Since Theia happened, could this thing happen? I don't know. You guys decide, you guys choose. I'm just a narrator once again. No opinions here. I mean, just some opinions, of course. Maybe about astrology. For all of you people that really like astrology, probably disappointed in me, it's not my kind of thing, you know. But it's not that I'm not interested in it, it's interesting, very interesting, just don't believe in it as I believe in the beautifulness of this map. That's for sure. So once again, thank you for watching. Add a comment in the comment section to help out the algorithm in the video, and also just to tell me whatever you want to tell me about, especially link to the concepts of Nibiru we talked about, and whatever else. As long as this series continues, I'll keep on producing content relating to the Nos Confunden Terra Infinita map. So once again, thank you for watching, put a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.